So continuing with our supply curve, and we're going to see a lot of similar themes to what we had in the demand curve. A supply curve simply shows us at any given market price, how many are the sellers in the market willing to sell. So once again, at any given price, it shows us what is the total number the sellers in the market sell. So at a price of $20, sellers are in this market are willing to sell 10 units. As the price gets higher, sellers are more able and willing to sell. So there's our law of supply. Supply is going to be upward sloping, opposite of demand. And once again, it's showing us that all else equal, suppliers would prefer to sell at a higher price than at a lower price. All right, once again, we have our market supply curve. This is just the summation of all of the individual suppliers. And then we can have a shift in supply versus an increase in quantity supplied. So once again, if our price changes, that's just going to shift us to a different spot along the supply curve. This is showing us that at a price of $40, there are fewer people willing to supply gaming apps than at a price of $80. The quantity supplied is higher at higher prices. Over here in the left panel, we're looking at an increase in supply. And once again, as I said in the demand video, an increase in a curve is always going to be to the right towards higher quantities. So what's this showing us? It's showing us that at any given price, $80, for example, there are a higher quantity supplied now at this new supply curve S1 than were supplied here at S0. Likewise, we could have a shift to the left of supply. That would be a decrease. Any shift to the left towards lower quantities is going to be a decrease in our curve. Doesn't matter whether it's supply or demand. And again, sometimes this is confusing, so be careful because vertically, this new supply curve is somewhat higher, I guess you could say, than S0, but it is shifted to the left to lower quantities. So this is a decrease in supply. Again, we contrast that to a decrease in quantity supplied. Here, the price fell from $80 to $40. At the new lower price, there are a lower quantity of sellers willing to sell, or the sellers in the market are willing to sell a fewer number. So we see that movement along the curve from here to here. All right, so again, just like demand, certain factors will shift the entire supply curve. We'll see those in a second, things that sellers care about. Things that will not shift the entire supply curve are a change in price. We'll move to a different spot, or shifts in the demand curve do not impact supply because we have no timeline in this model right now for sellers to make that change. All right, so demand does not shift supply, supply does not shift demand, price does not shift either, but we do have a list of factors that will shift each of our curves. So what do producers care about when they're producing products? Well, they care about the technologies that they have available to produce products. They care about how much the resources cost that they're using to produce. Prices of related commodities, so substitutes or complements that they could alternatively be producing instead of what they're producing. Again, just like demand, we had this idea about potential expectations about the future. My test questions don't really talk too much about expectations because once again, we don't really have a time period in this model. When we start talking about expectations about the future, there must be some time. So we haven't really introduced the time yet. I kind of focus on the other shift factors. Number of sellers, if we have more sellers in the market, remember we're just adding up the number each is willing to sell to get to the market demand. So if we have more sellers, more people selling, that's going to be a higher supply. And finally, we've got some taxes and subsidies, and we will actually see the impact of tax and subsidy in our next module, our final module, which is included on midterm 1. All right, so these are all things that suppliers care about when they're producing. Consumers generally do not think about these things. For example, if you go to the grocery store and buy some food, are you thinking about what the supplier paid for their inputs to produce this product? No, not really. So Consumers don't really care about supply shift factors. Suppliers don't really care very much about demand shift factors in our simple model. So they're isolated. We have consumers who demand, they care about demand shift factors. Our producers who supply care about these supply shift factors. All right, once again, we kind of go through what these shift factors are. You can kind of read some of those on your own. I'm just showing our shift versus a movement along the curve again. And I think, yep, we will continue into our market equilibrium video next.